these scientists, if you think about it, all they're doing when they're looking at microscopes, they won't admit it, but they're trying to see God. Some of them are smart enough to realize that God created the earth and all that right there. But they were describing these tornadoes and all these statistics and coming up with all these computers and had these big screens. This one countryman in the back stood up. He said, "Let me tell you what a tornado is." They said, first of all, they didn't acknowledge him, and then he stood up. He said, "Let me tell you what a tornado is." They said, "What is it?" He says, "It's the finger of God."
No.
The finger of God.
It's not. It's not. God has showed me that it's not God. Now, by me saying that, God is in control of all things, correct?
Right.
So right there's your shoes. So what's happening? Right there's your shoes.
I had a sign.
Maybe they're over there. But
go ahead.
What's happening? It says in the Bible that in the last days Satan will come down in great wrath because his time is short. Right.
Right.
It's over in Revelations, correct?
Correct.
Satan will come down in great wrath. Well, I've always pictured that towards, that's probably the reason why the gays and the lesbians has expanded like they have in the past 25, 30 years, because I'm about 60 years old now. And that's probably the reason why that they go into these schools and do these massive shootings, and they kick out windows in Las Vegas, and they spray up 2,000 people and kill 68 of them, and the bomb with Timothy McVeigh and all this other stuff. That's part of it. Children being disobedient, the great falling away, that's all part of it. But God has showed me that He has taken His divine hand and He has taken a certain portion of the protection away. And the reason why is because it goes back to like you were saying about good old-fashioned horse sense. If you continue to bite the hand that feeds you,
right,
He'll quit feeding you.
Right.
Well, guess what? Whenever God is asking you to come to His presence, it's a suggestion, okay?
Right.
It's a suggestion.
It's a choice.
It's a suggestion or a choice. But now, after you've made that commitment, then it's no longer a suggestion. Now it's a requirement, and you're supposed to live a certain lifestyle. And if you don't, He said that He would give you over to a reprobate mind and allow for you to believe the lie and be damned. And it's not that God is damning us; it's that we're actually damning ourselves because we've walked away from that close-knit relationship.
Proverbs 11:29 says it too. One of my favorite proverbs. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool becomes servant to the wise in heart. Think of all these families that lost their the mother or father is gone, or the businesses. And just say I'm working in a business and I start causing trouble. I'm going to find out what 11:29 means. It means you're going to be fired. You're going to inherit the wind. You're going to inherit the outside.
Right.
And the Bible is clear about that.
But have you ever seen a society here in America, especially, where so many children are being raised up fatherless, are being raised up without mothers now?
And their grandparents are taking over?
Well, the grandparents taking over, and of course, if you whip any of them, you're going to go to jail immediately, and you can't talk down to them. You can't
had a yard
you
sale.
can't chastise them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's turned into a wild west show here.
Liberalism. That's called liberalism.
The law don't even have control over enforcing the law no more. It's almost turned into a mockery.
If you think it's bad here, go to California.
Oh, I've been to California. Yes, sir.
Anything goes.
Yes, sir.
And anything goes is the downfall of the Roman Empire,
Yep.
the Grecian Empire,
Yep.
the Babylonian.
See, it hadn't been but about 7, 8, 10 years ago, they was wanting to ban the Bible from California. Did you know that?
Oh, I know about it.
They was wanting to ban the Bible from California.
And now they've got it to where you can't even have the meetings at this flagpole, the religion right there. They've stopped that.
Flagpole? What are you talking about, flagpole?
Well, they've had it for a while where the Christians could meet out there at the flagpole and have their prayers and everything.
Okay.
Now they've stopped that.
Okay. All right, getting back to your profession, and because I'm recording this, by the way. A tornado actually begins horizontally. And it starts rolling, hot, cold, hot, cold. And it's kind of like I'm going to use this for an analogy that you understand. It's kind of like rolling up a piece of carpet. Okay.
Right.
And as you roll,
cylindrical.
And as you roll the carpet up, the carpet gets bigger. It starts forming bigger, right?
Right.
Well, as it's getting bigger, it starts getting more powerful. As it gets more powerful, it gets more heavier. Now listen to me, I'm fixing to go somewhere with this.
All right.
Whenever a tornado has that much static electricity going through it,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes magnetic.
I follow that. And I
It
agree
becomes magnetic because whenever you hear thunder, that's actually explosions.
That's right.
Where the molecules are breaking.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, the air is separated.
The air separating. I mean, we
Coming back together.
didn't even have an idea towards how to break an atom until back whenever we created the hydrogen bomb, right?
Split, fusion
Split.
and fission, yeah.
That's right. So this is all part of that goes on in a natural form. Now, what God has showed me, and you may not agree with it, but I'd appreciate if you hear my theory about it. We're draining billions and billions and billions of barrels of oil out of the ground every day. Every day. And I guarantee you, if we was to take all the barrels of oil and put them in the Grand Canyon, we could probably fill the Grand Canyon up 4, 5, 6 different times. Going all the way back to the early 1900s, whenever they first created Ford, first created the automobile. Because now, look at the revolution. I mean, look at everybody that's burning oil or coal or gas or something. Well, as they're steadily draining this oil out of the ground, they're supposed to be putting this nutrients back into the ground. But the nutrients it's not a nutrient, it's like a compound, it's a liquid form, but it's supposed to take the place of the oil. Well, have you ever seen crude oil come out of the ground?
Yeah.
It's like molasses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a really, really strong base to it. Okay, this is my point that I'm going here with this. First of all, we know now that oil does not come from the death of the dinosaurs.
Or the plants.
Right. Oil was put there for a heat shield to separate the core of the earth that's steadily in magma, okay? It was put there for a heat shield. And as we're steadily draining the oil, the heat shield is getting smaller and smaller. As it's getting smaller and smaller, you know, we have found places in the abyss of the ocean, 4 or 5 miles deep, that was 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, that if you get around it or get on top of it, it'd literally fry you. It'd fry everything. It'd fry you. You know, all these whales and all these different mammals that you know, beach themselves. You know why they're doing that? It's because they done got somewhere down in there and it's done ruined them. And now it's a way of dying. It's a way of committing suicide. And they know that if they get out of that water, they're going to die. They know they are. Well, whenever you got 2,000 daggum sea mammals that done this all at once, something is going on.
Well, nature, like I said, nature's a great teacher right there.
Okay, all right. So as we're draining the oil,
there's another guy right there.
As we're draining the oil.
Let me add this right there while you're saying it right there.
Okay.
Okay. One thing about draining the oil is, see, the earth is like a in a way, it's like a sponge.
Yes, it's constantly in motion,
right.
Moving, twisting.
Everything.
Yes.
People talking about being calm and
tides
still.
going in, tides going out. It's in constant motion.
Yeah, your body's moving right now in so many ways.
It's like an organism of itself.
That's right. Now all that oil and all this water and all this stuff we take from the earth, what do you think all these sinkholes and all these other things are happening right now?
Exactly.
Because the earth is compacting right there.
Right.
And we're headed for let me tell you what I tell people. I say, get you a chair and some popcorn because there's a show coming that you're not going to believe. But nature is fixing to show us right there because it's starting it right now.
Oh, yeah.
People are not going to believe.
Have you ever heard of Edgar Cayce?
I've studied for 40 years.
Okay. Edgar Cayce thought that the poles had one time reversed.
And they have.
And they may have had. But whenever the poles does that, you know, you got all that liquid that's going in a certain direction because the world's spinning this way. And, you know, the earth, the moon is kind of like a tail on a kite. Because if you was to take the moon out of the equation,
we wouldn't be living.
Earth wouldn't stay in one place like it is. Because it's all evolving by, you know, it's like a...
You're right, and I agree with your theory. And here's another one. You know, when you spin a top as a child,
right?
That top has got a centrifugal and gyration. That motion keeps it in place.
That's
Think
right.
about all these cars and all these glaciers that are now moving and melting, but all these cars on the face of the earth. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. We're gonna, you know, the fair rides, all the tilt-a-whirls.
Yeah.
We're fixing to have a tilt-a-whirl. I'm telling you. I mean, the earth is fixing to it's fixing to show us
go through a radical.
The mind will not be able to believe it. You'll see it.
And it may be uninhabitable whenever it happens.
I told my wife.
It could be uninhabitable.
I told my wife 30 minutes ago. I said it's going to be uninhabitable, except for the ones who. I truly believe that the ones who are coming together and are respecting nature and God and loving people the way they should and understanding what they can, they're going to be helped. There's going to be a lot of people. I hate to say this, but this world population is fixing to go down in ways that Daryl will tell you too.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish what I'm telling you about the tornadoes. Let me finish what I'm telling you about the tornadoes.
You don't believe that?
No, he don't believe I'm free.
Yeah, I do. Let me tell you about these tornadoes, okay?
Yeah.
A tornado creates centrifugal force, okay? To me, I explain a tornado kind of like a blender that's going around this way, but at the same time, it's also got a suction to it. It's got a suction. The only thing is, whenever it sucks up what it's sucking up, a house or a person or a tree or whatever, it don't have a bag to put it in. It just throws it everywhere, right? So as it's sucking, it's more power there, plus it's created this centrifugal force that's become magnetic. Well, what's the ground made out of? Or it's made out of minerals that it's metallic that these things are attracted to, and that's the reason why we're seeing the tornadoes and the hurricanes become supersonic to the point that whenever they get on the ground, they stay on the ground. You know why? Because we're draining the oil, that protected shield that God intended to be there.
And it's following that magnetic trail right
there. There you go. It's following the magnetic trail.
You're right.
Pertaining to the what's it called in the center of the earth?
The core, the mantle.
The mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're exactly right there. I got chill bumps hearing that right there.
Let me say something. You never have heard of the kind of tornado we had in December.
I had neither.
Never.
Well, there's been tornadoes now hit in the wintertime.
But not like that.
Not like that.
I think it was an F5.
I think it was too over there at Mayfield. I really do, because it was taking buildings like this and twisting them up like there was nothing.
Exactly.
I'm talking about big beams.
And all it is, if you think about it, people would say I'm not right on this, but I know I'm right. A tornado or any weather or meteorological event is an attempt to balance nature. In other words, when a tornado comes, it's letting people know that nature is out of balance so bad that tornado, that centrifugal force and that energy has got to go do that to balance everything else out. And that's why it does it. That's why it's the same thing with a hurricane.
Well, let me go back to where we was at to begin with, pertaining to it being the finger of God. Okay? There's no doubt that God is in control of everything. Okay? But whenever God is sitting back and he's seeing this destruction that mankind is bringing upon to himself, and they're not praising him, they're not worshiping him the way that they're supposed to be worshiping him, do you think that he's going to protect us as far as preventing these things from happening? Now, one other factor I want to put into your mind, okay? Whenever it hit up in Dresden, it destroyed over 100 structures alone, just in the city limits of Dresden, right?
I was over there. I was over there when it happened.
Okay. By rights, theoretically speaking, there should have been somebody with a cut-off arm, a cut-off leg, or a dead body in the middle of all that. So yes, God was protecting them on an individual level per se in each house, but He's not protecting us from the event itself coming down, because we're bringing this upon to ourselves. And unless we're smart enough to figure out what we're doing to ourselves, guess what we're going to do? We're going to destroy ourselves. And what does the book of Revelation say? It says that he come back to destroy those who was destroying the earth. That was prophesied over 2,000 years ago. Whenever Jesus said to flee into the mountains, do you think he said to flee into the mountains because you was going to have more pleasure up in the mountains? No, sir. He knew that the glaciers was going to be melted. He knew that the weather was going to become very abstract and deformed and out of proportion the way that it is right now. He knew that these things was coming, because that's the reason why he said that great sorrows, not minor sorrows, not light sorrows, but great sorrows would fall upon to the. It says, "Woe unto the inhabitants here upon to the earth." What do you think that means? Woe.
Exactly.
Something bad.
Well.
Woe.
And these preppers, if you think about, you know where these preppers are going. You know what I'm talking about with these preppers?
What preppers? What kind of preppers?
Preppers are getting ready for the World War III and the end times right there.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking
They're
about.
fleeing into the mountains.
Right. End time people.
Stockpiling all.
Right,
the food and
stockpiling
stuff.
all the food and stuff.
And they've got kind of the idea right there, but they don't if they're not with God right there.
But you know what?
He'll
I've done
destroy
looked
them
at it. I've done looked at it theoretically speaking. And to be quite honest with you, you know who the lucky ones are? The ones that's already paid their dues and done went on to whatever level of eternity that they're going to go to, regardless whether they're going to go to the eternity for the great white throne judgment, or they're going to go to lay it out or whatever, or they're going to the pearly gates of heaven. The lucky ones has already paid their dues. Now, what did Christ say? He said, "Weep not for me, but weep for your children and your children's children." But he also said, "Weep whenever they come into the world, and rejoice whenever they leave the world, providing that they've had a relationship with the Lord." Right? We've got it just the opposite. We moan and groan and cry whenever somebody dies, and put on a big show. Oh, I love Aunt Albert and Aunt Sue, and I love them so much. And the whole time, just like my grandmother said, she said, "If you cannot send me flowers whenever I'm living, don't send me none whenever I'm dead." In other words, they pretend like they cared about Grandma. They pretend that they cared about Uncle Albert. That's what they care about. They care about what Uncle Albert's going to give them in their inheritance. That's why this world has become evil. And to think that we have killed all these children, do you realize how many children has been destroyed just within
how many million?
I think about 600,000. I mean, not 600,000. 600,000. That's right. 600,000 children. And that's just the ones that we know about.
You know how many children die every day because there's not enough to eat? And here we are getting all this. There's 40, 50,000 children that die every day because of the malnutrition. Now, wonder what, and I tell people this right here. If you think about it, if you're sensitive enough, I don't see where happiness comes in. How can somebody be truly happy and go out and eat and realize that they're feeding their face, and yet somebody else is over here starving, dying?
Right.
That's why Johnny Cash wore black. You know that?
Yeah.
He wore black because...
Well, if you look at the first 3 chapters of Revelations where he's talking to the 7 churches there, I believe that whenever he was talking to the 7 churches then, he was talking to them now. He's talking to them now. And he talks about, he said, "For I will not put upon thee none other burden, hold fast till I come." Well, what is a burden? A burden is basically like a stumbling block. It's a burden, you know. And he said that he would not put upon thee none other burden, hold fast till he come. He said also that the devil would throw some of us into prison and cause some of us to be put to death. What's going on right now over in Russia and the Ukraine area? What's going on in other parts of the world where they're killing one another and eating one another right now?
That's right.
You know? And he also said, "Behold, I will take them that won't repent, and I will throw them off into a sick bed." Okay? Before COVID ever hit, we was already sick. Leukemia, tuberculosis, cancer, heart disease, obesity. I could go on and on and on.
Cancers of the mind and the heart.
Towards us being sick, right? Towards us being sick. But he also said that not only will I throw you off into a sick bed, he said, "I will kill her children." It don't pull no games about it, brother. It don't try to patch it up like a Joel Osteen message, okay? It's not a silver tongue talker here. It says, "I will kill her children, and she shall know that I am the one who rule the reins of the hearts of man," etc., etc., etc. But he's given us a chance right now to go back and do thy first works over again, "For I've not found thy works perfect yet." That's what he continues to say to the 7 churches. Am I right, brother? He continues to say that again and again and again. And he also said, "Be thy faithful unto death, and I will not give thee a crown. I will give thee a crown of life." Be thy faithful unto death. Well, see, there's going to be 2 deaths. There's going to be a death to the flesh, and then there's going to be a death to the soul if you haven't given your heart and life over to Christ.
Right. I agree.
And I ain't just talking about talking it. I'm talking about walking it, living it, being it. Because the Father seeketh those who worship Him in what? Truth and what? And in spirit. The Father seeketh those who worship him in truth and in spirit. And there's no doubt, I don't know who you are, I've never met you for my entire life. But I was called to come over here and talk to you. I don't know.
Like I said, this is not a coincidence.
No, it was preordained for us to talk about this stuff that right now. But I'm telling you right now, as it's steadily going backwards, and it is going backwards, there's going to come a time that people like me and you are going to have to depend upon each other.
You're going to have to what?
Depend upon each other.
Well, I've been saying that right there.
We're going to have to depend upon each other,
Yeah,
because the government ain't going to be able to. The government ain't going to do nothing for you. Right now, we're over $30 trillion in debt, brother.
That's right.
Letting all these illegals come over here.
I'm gonna tell you what I think it's coming to. Is gonna, money is a tool, but I think it's also a big illusion.
It is.
What makes a pig get bigger? I tried to tell my mama that. She said, well, the farmer goes and buys the grain. I said, wait a minute, the sun that God designed and this weather creates the photosynthesis for the grass to grow and for the pig to eat. Exactly. And we're going to have to get back to God, get back to nature.
What do they call that? Where this one eats this one and that one eats this, all the way down to the little insect.
Oh, you're talking about I know what you're talking about right there. The food chain
or whatever. But money is a form of religion. We believe a $5 bill is worth $5 because we was taught that it was worth $5. We believe that a $20 bill is worth $20 because we was taught that it was $20. Well, guess what? We could start developing our barter system off of marbles. A red marble is worth $5. A blue marble is worth $20. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just like this pair of shoes right here. This pair of shoes is different than this pair of shoes. Well, we could say that pair of shoes is worth $5 because we believe that it's worth $5, right? And we believe that this pair of shoes is worth $20. It's based upon a belief system. And that's exactly what the bartering system is. It's based upon a belief system.
That's right. Let me ask you this. I've always read about, the left hand and the right hand.
Not knowing what
does it mean to you to not let the left hand know what the right hand doing? To me, it means if there's a need, if there's something that needs to take place, you need to do that out of the goodness of your heart, and not always expect something in return from somebody else, but because that person needs love or food or whatever. Some people say that's not right, but what does it mean to you?
To me, I've learned that there are certain things that the general public aren't strong enough to consume. And even though you may think that they need to be given that knowledge or that information, you need to pray about it, because sometimes the left hand don't know what the right hand's doing, and it's doing it for a purpose, for the benefit of the people. Because if you was to throw all that information on them at one time, you'd probably blow up their freaking minds. Right. Just like Jesus told the disciples, they couldn't handle it. Just like Jesus told the disciples, he said, I have things to give you pertaining to knowledge that I can't give you right now. Well, if you get to looking, whenever Jesus died, he resurrected, went to the Father on the 40th day, it was give or take about 35, 40 more years, was whenever John the Baptist, John on the island of that was given that vision directly from God of the information that the Lord wanted to give them 30 years prior to that, but they couldn't handle it. God finally found somebody that could handle it, develop it, and put it on paper to where me and you today, after it being translated, can understand it. And because our knowledge has expanded probably 1,000 times greater than what their knowledge was back then. It says in the Bible that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We can consume that information today, grasp it, and understand it. Now, is it frightful? Yeah, it really is, if you're looking at the glass of it being half empty versus it half full. Once more, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. But to me, I'm glorifying myself, because the Bible says to jump and rejoice whenever they shall persecute you and cast your name out as it being evil. for so did they to the prophets before you. So once more, we're supposed to rejoice whenever they come in, whenever they leave the world, and to weep and cry whenever they come in. We got it just the opposite, brother.
And let the dead bury the dead.
Well, the dead bury the dead, pertaining to those that are dead in spirit. And it also says, do not take your pearls and throw them before the swine. The pearls represent something good. The swine represents something bad. Once you identify that a person is using you, taking advantage of you, and not doing you correctly, you're not obligated to that person no longer. Just like the Father ain't obligated to a nation towards protecting that nation if we're not doing what God intends for that nation to do. And that's what I'm telling you that's going on pertaining to all these storms. All these, this past last year, they had a heat dome that built up out there in California, Oregon, and up towards Washington State, and it also went up towards Canada, right? It was like 117 degrees in Canada, and they said they ain't never had temperatures like that.
Like I said, get you a chair and wait for the show. Let me ask you this right here.
Show's already begun.
Oh yeah. It's like I said, but people laugh at you and they say evolution, all this other stuff. I said no. I said it's all part of the plan, baby. And it's not. Man didn't create God. God created man. But see, a lot of people think man created God. But let me ask you this right here. You think God, of course, he can do anything. He's omnipotent, all powerful.
That's right. He could have destroyed Lucifer before Lucifer ever contaminated the Garden of Eden.
Let me ask you, has he ever manifested to you? You know, a lot of people are kind of people where they don't have faith. They have to have tangible means of belief, stuff like that. I'm going to tell you a story right quick here, and then I'm going to have to go. People laugh at me when I got proof. I took my camera. My two boys went fishing. You know Grisham at Grisham Farm out there?
Yeah.
Having fish pond out there.
Right.
My boys were like 8 or 9 years old.
Right.
And they caught a fish, and I went to my car and got a camera.
Okay.
And the camera jammed, and I went back. I said, I've got another camera, so I went back and got that other one right there.
Right.
And they're out there holding a little fish up right there. And said,
Right.
Daddy, take a picture. And I took that second camera, and that sucker jammed. Now watch this right here. All right. I got kind of mad and got kind of perturbed, so I started hitting that camera right there.
Okay.
We're taking a picture right there.
Right.
That camera spit out a picture. Okay? All right, over my shoulder. Okay? I took it, I was out on their land, I said, well, I'm not going to throw this litter, so I put it in my pocket. Put that picture in my pocket, and then I took a picture of the fish. Later on that night, I got to going through my clothes, I said, well, I need to throw that trash away. I took that picture out, and, all right, the aperture of that camera is like a pinprick.
Right.
All right, I could show you that picture right here, and you're one of those people who can see it right there. A lot of people can't see it, but you know what I think it is? I know what it is.
It's energy.
And
it's energy.
What happened was
it's energy.
That's right, everything's energy. About 50 miles in the sky, the winds were swirling and the clouds were doing like that. And if it's not an image, I'm not talking about a straight image and all that, but it's an image of a man with, and you can see the clouds that came together that like a thorn of crown.
Right.
And you can see where he was damaged and all that.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. And I got another picture. I took a picture one time of a barn, and what showed up in that picture right there was
now your medical industry would tell you now your imagination's running wild.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you get paranoia. You see what you want to see.
Or you're bipolar.
Yeah.
Or you're this or you're that. Well, guess what? It's the medical industry that is between the medical industry, the politicians, and the preachers,
they don't know
the
anything.
bogus preachers, that has put us in the shape that we're in right now.
Exactly.
Towards basically almost being at the brink of a third world war. Did you know that we're almost at the brink of a third world war right now? Did you know that?
Let me go back to that part you're talking about the earth right there. You know, why do you think God let the dinosaurs get that big? Now, you think about that. Just give me an answer. What do you think about that? Why did an animal get bigger than almost bigger than a blue whale right there? What happened to cause the animals to do that? Because God let it happen because there was a reason.
I don't know. What's your analogy?
I know what it is.
What?
You know, get back to the earth.
I know God shrunk everything. Now you can look at a little lizard and it looks just like everything got shrunk. You know what I'm saying? I do know that.
If you were to drink some water all those years ago and eat from the, see what?
It was so pure back then.
Exactly.
oxygen was
Why do you think
pure.
a dog, when a dog gets sick, what does a dog do? He goes out and eats the grass because that animal knows through God that medicine's in the ground.
That's right.
97% of the
Talk to
all
me,
drugs.
brother. Talk to me.
97% of all drugs used to be from the ground,
Yes.
from the grass,
Yes.
from the trees.
Yeah, now it's organically grown.
Exactly, and that's why we're getting
Grown
sick.
in hot boxes.
Dinosaurs got that big because it was so pure and the nutrients were so rich right there that they started getting big. And once they started to get big,
There you go.
the earth started supplying them, and they got as big from here that those baby carriers over there.
Oh, some of
70, 80 feet
them,
long.
some
right
of them got to be, what did they say? Some of them
70
got
tons.
70 tons.
70 tons. Now what would? And here's something else.
How big are some of the whales?
Some of the blue whales are bigger than some of the dinosaurs were. They think, but they're finding dinosaurs right now bigger than blue whales. They're finding some that are 110 feet long.
How about all them? Hey, how about all them cities that they're finding down there in South America? Because now we got the radar equipment to be able to look through that forest. How about all that stuff that they're finding down there? They're saying that there was a whole primitive tribe down there, brother. A whole primitive tribe.
I went to South America about 40 years ago.
You did?
Let me
What part? Colombia? Where was you?
Ecuador.
Ecuador.
I went down there and I saw some of the happiest indigenous people.
Oh,
I was down there with the headhunters.
Good God.
You know, all these people have got all these.
Cannibalism is still real down in some of them
You
areas.
got all these people got all these huge homes and all this food and all these cars.
Right.
And they're miserable. I saw the happiest people. You know why?
That didn't have nothing.
Exactly.
Didn't have nothing.
Sometimes-
Sleeping underneath a tree.
Sometimes the greatest thing to have is not to have. And
Yes.
they know that. And I flew over the world's highest volcano, Mount Chimborazo, looked down in the middle of it right there and saw probably 6.5 miles into the earth right there. But anyway, get back to what was I talking about?
The headhunters, and down in South America.
That's right. When I got there,
What was you doing down in there?
well, I went down there because they had earthquakes and all that stuff down there, and we went down there to rebuild the infrastructure.
Okay.
I stayed for about 3 years.
Okay, and you said that you studied in what? Weather.
Weather, and I studied weather, and I'm a geologist and things like that.
Okay.
But I'll tell you quick, I'm a student.
Every day.
The greatest teachers are students, and I'm gonna get back to the Bible. You could live to be 1,000 years old, and the wind blow a page on the Bible, and all in 1,000 years you hadn't gleaned that grain of truth that you're fixing to see after 1,001 days. That's how rich it is, because it's inspired by God.
Yes.
It's energy.
Talk to me, brother.
Energy.
Yes.
But I went down there, to get this right here. When I got there was an old man I was talking to, and you know what he done? He just cut a tree down. This guy was like 85 years old. 85. And cut this tree down. You know what he was doing? Building a canoe.
Okay.
I watched him every day dig that canoe out right there with an old primitive little hatchet right there.
Right. I've seen them do it on TV.
To put it down in the Napo, Napo River, which is a tributary to the Amazon.
Okay.
And every night, he and his children would get around his wife, and they would sit around and talk, and they would eat, and they would fellowship. They didn't know about Jesus, but look here. When I left right there had been a preacher that had come down there that had started to school them and educate them about Jesus and God and the universe and all that. And they're converted down there now.
They are.
They're converted. They're the happiest, most tranquil.
Amen.
And right now they're living to be 95.
So how long did you stay down there in South America?
About 3 years.
Really? You got to know them real good then.
Let me tell you this right here for Darryl. You know who the oldest group of people in the world are? African American women live over 100, more than the Chinese or Mediterranean.
Yeah.
I was doing some survey work up in Camden.
Okay.
August, about 35 years ago. Real hot. And I ran out of water, and I walked across this field, and I saw this elderly black man on the porch right there. And I said, "Can I trouble you for some water?"
It's got to do with the copper in the ground, don't it?
Exactly. And I said, "May I trouble you for some water?" He said, "I'll get my maid to give you something." Directly comes a lady, and I got the water. Thanked her and thanked him, and I was getting in the car, and I said, "I forgot to tell you why I thank you." He said, "That's not my wife, that's my mother. He's 85. She's out there springing around like I said, "May I go in and see your mother? Because I want to talk to her about the recipe, and I ain't talking about cornbread." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I want to know the recipe for life."
Hey, it's because of what they're eating. Their ground over there is still natural.
I went in. She's in there sewing. I said, "First of all, I want to know your recipe for life. She said, I said, first of all, how young are you? I always say how young, not old.
I
She
got
says,
you.
I'm 103. And I said, what is your recipe? And she goes like this right here. I said, what is number one right there? She said, God.
God.
Believing in God and living a righteous life.
God.
And
Amen.
love. I said, I understand that. She said, what? I said, what's number two? She gets up off the chair, off the couch, walks over and parts the curtain.
Right.
She said, young man, you see that garden out there? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I've been eating out of it for 95 years. In other words, the medicine in the ground. She says, that's exactly right.
Okay.
All this stuff we're eating right now is killing us.
Oh yeah.
I said, now
Well,
what's
look at the farmers, how that they'll farm
no
it
Potter
year after
ash.
year after year. I mean, they're just wearing the ground out to the point that now, if they don't fertilize it and put artificial,
it won't yield.
it won't yield.
Right.
They won't get nothing out of it.
Say that. I said, I
As
know
a matter of
enough-
fact, some countries won't even accept our soybeans because they're afraid of them. Did you know that?
Exactly. I know it.
But what was the third?
I said one. I know number
Well, water,
God,
the
number
water.
Two, number three. I said
The water.
Number two was the food and the water.
Okay, the food
The
and the
medicine
water.
that you put in your body
Okay,
right there.
the nutrients.
I said, what's number three? She says, when you finish, young man, I'm going to finish my work. I said, in other words, you're going to have a passion, something to stir your blood, and some kind of devotion of this earth and God. She says, and you know what? She lived to be 112. The son's still alive. She died at 112, and it wasn't no accident.
No, because over there,
There ain't no accident.
over there, it's every day, right?
That's right. There ain't no accident.
Is that the same group of people, if I'm not mistaken, that was on that island whenever that big tsunami hit over there and knocked out all those nuclear reactors over there in
Japan or
Japan? Okay, it was an island of people over there that had been trained. They had been trained that if the ocean ever left, to run for high ground. And they said did not one person die. They said they run just as hard as they could to get uphill because they had been trained.
Right.
Whenever something like that happens,
Right.
go to the high ground. To where everybody else was sitting there, oh wow, and they was getting closer and closer to the edge of the ocean and going down on the bed of it, thinking, my God, where did all the water go? Where'd all the water? Then all of a sudden, here it comes in about a freaking 30 or 40 foot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because water will have a sucking, it'll suck into itself,
You know what
and then it will roll, and then here it comes.
Right. You know when those tsunamis, when those earthquakes happen in the ocean, that wave.
They just had one.
That's right. The initial wave, can travel 500 and 600 miles an hour.
Yeah,
You know
I know.
that little wave, and then when it gets towards the coast, when it's shallow, that, like you said, that water sucks and it builds that big tidal wave, and it's Katie Bar. Some of those waves have been 1,700 feet in history. But let me go back to
17 stories?
1,700 feet. They've already measured some of it 1,700 feet. Now I'm talking about 1,000 years ago. But these history books, and you hit on this a while ago. I used to pick up a history book and think it's kind of like the Bible. We don't know any more about history, and through these authors and these historians, they've got it all wrong right there.
They've manipulated the truth.
Exactly.
I got locked up in MCC in downtown Chicago because they wanted to study me like a lab rat, right?
I used to be in South Holland, Chicago. I know all about it.
All right. I'm originally born in Chicago, but anyways, I lived here since 1967. But while I was in there, they had a library. I went down to the library and I got to looking at all these Indian artifact books. Oh my God! Do you have any idea of the knowledge that I picked up in the 6 months that I was there towards reading all them Indian books? Because they're not going to teach us history like that. You know why?
No.
Because they're ashamed of what happened.
Right.
They're ashamed of what they done and how they done it, and because of it, they don't want to advertise it. They know it happened. They know they genocided the red man. They know they did. And you know why they did? You know why they did?
Fear.
Well, they didn't understand them, number one.
That's right. Fear. Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown.
Who are they?
That's right. But I figured out the reason why that their blood type is different than anybody else's on the planet. Now I'm fixing to tell you something's going to blow your mind.
I already know what you're going to tell me. Go ahead.
It's pertaining to the missing link. God has showed me what the missing link is. Whenever it talks about the Bible, whenever the great flood happened, that there was 8 saved. Well, it was 8 saved that they know about, pertaining to in that area. Okay? But spiritually speaking, there was probably thousands of them that got saved as they was crying out to God, and their souls got saved. But there was a group of people that made it through that flood. The same group of people that not only made it through that flood, also made it through the Ice Age down there on the equator, down there in South America. What I'm talking about is the Mayans and the Sphinx and the Cocopelis and four or five other groups. They wound up
something right on there.
They was survivalists, right? Mm-hmm. And they wound up merging either on boat by going up to Alaska and coming down through Canada that actually created the Native American here in the Americas, or they walked and come up through South America and up through Mexico, and that's where they merged right here. Because the true Native American person, there's not but 30,000 of them left here in America, and they've got a DNA that's unlike all the other 12 tribes. Now, it talks about the 12 tribes, right?
That's right.
There was 12 tribes. Well, I think there was a 13th tribe. I think there was an unknown tribe. And that unknown 13th tribe was the survivalists that made it through the Ice Age and the flood, and they merged with the white man along with the European man, and they knew, or they felt like that they knew, that this red man was a curse. He's an animal. He's a vicious creature, and we need to destroy him. He's like a plague. He's like a rat or a possum or something. We need to kill them all. Well, once the red man identified that they wasn't going to be able to survive this, that the European man had come up with something unlike any other thing that they'd ever seen before. They'd survived through the flood, they'd survived through the Ice Age, they'd survived throughout the years towards multiplying and becoming who they was, but they didn't have the knowledge of black gunpowder. And that's the only reason why that the European man come over here and destroyed them.
That's right. You're right. Connections. That's what I'm saying right there. If you look at the true dominoes, number one, I got into a discussion the other day, and people were talking about all these different truths, and they said, well, there's 40 different truths. I said, no, there's one truth. There's one truth. They didn't believe me right there. But if you let nature teach you, and if you let God teach you and educate you, He's going to reveal some things to you that are completely 180, 360 degrees what you've been taught right there.
Now let me tell you something else.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. Now let me tell you something else that God showed me about them being a survivalist. Okay? I do believe in Bigfoot. I do believe at one time there was an actual half gorilla, half type human being that come out of Darwin's theory. Okay? Yeah. So I do believe in evolution, but I also believe that God did create Adam and Eve. Just like I believe that the snake, what would have been the purpose of cursing the snake? That the snake had to get down on his belly and roam on his belly the rest of his life if it was already on his belly. The snake actually got around on his tail that was considered one of the most cleverest beasts in the field, and it actually walked up like a man. And it actually is what persuaded Eve, oh, this ain't gonna do that. If you eat of this knowledge, you'll have the knowledge of God. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I also study statistics. Let me tell you this, and you and I can talk, but I was going to get your number right there. You live out there in Hop In, right?
Yeah.
Where do you live from where the store used to be?
Less than a mile.
If I go out there, the Davis would know, because I want to finish our talk right here, but I study statistics. You know what that is? That's the law of numbers and all that stuff right there. People, a lot of atheists, in a way, have more faith than a Christian. You know why? If you're an atheist and don't believe that this was created and designed,
you actually have a belief in not believing.
Right.
You have a belief in not believing.
Exactly. You've got the attitude that if a windstorm or a tornado, this is a statistic fact right here. If a windstorm and tornado went through a junkyard and created a 747 jet, a lot of people say given enough time it would do it. No, it won't. You've got people who believe that windstorm picking up, or take a windstorm coming through Walmart here, and all this inventory put up the way it is. Well, they said given enough time it would do that. They're full of bullshit.
They're basing things off coincidence.
That's right.
And things don't happen in a coincidental form. I know where you're going with that. But listen to me, I didn't finish what I was saying about the red man. The red man identified that he was going to be doomed. He knew that he was fixing to be doomed. So, what was his next solution? His next solution was, okay, if we can't survive one way, we'll survive another. And all the women started budding up with all the Europeans. Of course, a lot of people didn't like that because they was considered half-breeds, but they knew that that was the only way that their DNA was going to survive, was through the white man, through the European man. And yes, there's only 30,000 true Native Americans here in America, but whenever you get to looking at everybody, I mean, I got Cherokee in me, and I know that I do. You probably got some other type of tribe in you. If we don't want to say this is the melting pot.
I can prove to you, not within a year, but within an era, that you and I are brothers right there.
Right.
How are we not all related in a way? You know what I'm talking
we
about?
are.
Because
we all go back to who? Father Abraham.
It's all
Father Abraham. What did he promise Father Abraham?
It's all a factor in a division of time.
What did he promise Father Abraham? He said, I will make you a father of nations.
That's right, that's right.
And to this day, the Abraham Accord that Donald Trump helped to produce whenever he moved the American embassy over there, of Israel over there, that's all part of the prophecy pertaining to the
what church did what doesn't make a difference. What church do you go
pertaining to the temple being rebuilt. And this is all related around the doomsday devil's duel, where the two witnesses will come together and they will fight till death do us part. And that's whenever the breath of life will enter back into them, and that's whenever the first resurrection happens. That's whenever Christ said that on that night or on that day that there'd be two running in a mill, two will be in the bed, two will be in the field, one will be taken, the other shall be left. Yes, there's going to go through a purging area of the planet whenever all the wicked are going to take out the godly, and they're going to think that they're doing God a favor by taking us out.
Exactly.
They're that mixed up. I was raised up originally a Southern Baptist, but I got involved.
I used to go to the Primitive Baptist.
I love
the arbor, brush arbors, all that stuff.
Yes.
But I visited over, I'm gonna say over 1,000 churches.
Okay.
Because when I go to a church, people ask me, what do I belong to? And I say, I'm not bragging or anything, but I'm like John the Baptist right there. I go, and that's like Darrell a while ago. I wanted a feeling of being looked at.
What happened to him? Did he have a stroke or what? What happened to him?
He did. He had a stroke right there. But he preached for years.
Did he?
He did. And he preached the gospel.
Devil come at him then, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Devil attacked him.
That's right. But I went to his church one time for one reason right there.
You're a little older than me. I'm 61.
I'm 65. I turned 65 February 22nd.
Yeah, I can tell you're just a little older than me.
But
not to be disrespectful.
Oh, I know. But here's one of my sayings is
what?
It takes a long, long time to become young. People look at me and say, "You crazy?" I said, "No. You think about it. You have to live a long time to realize that God has got this order and this creation, and there's things to learn."
What do you think about the Masons?
About what?
The Masons, Eastern Star,
the Masons.
Shriners.
My brother's he's a 33 degree.
Is he?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
My daddy was a lawyer and a judge. He was a Mason.
What do you think about them? Do you think that there's good and bad in all them too?
I think that.
Or you think they're deceived and they're actually in a cult, or what? What do you think?
I think there are a lot of people that, like I said a while ago, that have been lost to certain facts and beliefs in history, and they created a society.
Well, the wording has changed.
That's right.
The meaning of the words has changed. Have you not seen how that they've changed?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to use this for an illustration. Whenever me and you was a kid growing up, whenever we got ready to go to a joint, that meant go down here to a tavern somewhere. Let's go to the joint, man.
That's right. Now it means something else.
It means roll up something and smoke and get high.
That's right.
But there's all kinds of words that's been changed. The definition, the true core of what they originated of have been changed throughout the years. You know why? It's because this is part of the process towards wanting to brainwash us.
Right. It's the devil.
It's the devil's doing.
Just right here, 13. 666, like you said.
But where did you go to college at?
I went to University of Tennessee, went to University of Memphis, and
Was you ever a teacher, instructor?
oh yeah, I taught college for I won't say probably 17 years. Then
You probably know my aunt then.
Who's your aunt right there?
She used to teach at Westview, and then she taught out there at the college a little bit.
I married my wife. Dad, you started the Dairy Queen business around here. She went to Westview, a little bit before y'all, but
Her name was Zora Bell Lovelace. Zodabel.
I know who you're talking about right there.
Zorabel.
Yeah.
She used to have a frog,
Yeah.
and every time she'd start the class, she'd take that old frog out, she would squeeze it and say, "Okay, Herbie, say good morning to the children." And she'd squeeze that frog, and that old frog would bellow her out, and everybody laughed. Well, that was a way of cutting through the ice. That way, everybody loosened up a little bit, and they'd come near
That's right.
remembering what she was trying to study. She knew that that was a way of bringing everybody together.
That's smart. That's smart. Because the average attention span cannot go much over 3 or 4 or 5 minutes
I'm going to say probably 15.
at the most. That's one reason I'm a student of the Andy Griffith Show.
Okay.
Let me tell you this, and then because we could talk for days. You know all this Middle East stuff like that. You remember the Andy Griffith Show where the husband and wife every morning they'd get up and break plates? You ever see that one? Let me explain it to you.
I don't think so.
All right.
I've seen
The old
most all of them.
The old farmer and the wife would get up and
You ain't got Petticoat Junction mixed up here, Dad.
no, this is the Andy Griffith Show. But
Okay,
I
go on.
remember Uncle Joe do that.
Oh yeah.
But every morning they'd get up and they'd start riling and breaking plates and being ornery. And
Ain't B wood?
Well, no. This couple was out in the country out there, out past where Goober and him lived. Well, out in the country. Andy Griffith Show. Now, Andy found out about this situation where they were always fighting.
Oh yes, I do remember
And he
that.
starts schooling them and start teaching them to say good morning, honey, morning, darling.
Right.
And get the coffee for your wife and get this. Now,
They was Hicks.
That worked for a while. About 5 minutes later in the show, Barney walks in with a busted nose. Here comes a guy with a busted elbow, and here comes another guy that's hurt. And Andy goes, "What's going on? What happened, y'all?" And they go, "Well, you know that situation that you think you helped? You mean me helping the husband and wife?" They said, "Yeah, but now they're taking their frustrations out on the community." He said, "In other words, they're breaking plates and doing that as their way to love." They said, "Yeah." And so he went back out there, and at the end of the show, it shows him, breaking a plate,
Right.
getting ornery.
So what's your
See,
point?
My point is, when we get over to the Middle East and these other countries that have been breaking plates for 7,000 years because that's how they
Tradition.
That's how they. And
Traditionally.
we try to teach them.
Conform
We're
them.
doing more harm. We are good right there, and we need to. You know what I'm talking about? People say I'm wrong, but
Well, first of all, you can't conform an individual. I don't care if it's from another country or it's somebody that's been on drugs or alcohol. You can't conform them from the outside in. And even Jesus talked about that in the reference to the cup. He
That's
said
right.
you can't do it. He said, what good does it do to clean up the outside of the cup? He said you got to start from the inside out, not the outside in.
That's
So
right.
whenever we went to war with the Afghanistan people, we had the right intentions towards conforming them. But guess what?
If you go to
it
eat-
didn't work, did it?
That's right.
It did not work. We handed them the golden goose and told them, said, now this is what you're supposed to do if they attack you. We've left you with all these guns. We left you with all these jeeps. We left you with all this. Shoot them back. Kill them. Well, hey, within what, 11 days they took that whole
Right,
the Taliban took that whole nation back over.
If you and I, that's right. If you and I go out and eat tonight together, and I burp or something like that, or we say excuse me,
Yeah.
you know, in the Middle East, if you don't burp, then you're insulting the cook, and that's how different we are right here.
Oh yes.
And we need to respect that and let them kind of take care of their own thing right there and take care of it. We get enough stuff here in this country we need to take care of.
Without trying to conform everybody
That's right.
else.
One of them is to get people and make them realize that
Get them
there
back,
is-
get
there
them
is-
back to the
number one, there is
Bible.
a God.
Get them back to the Bible.
That's right. There is a God. There's a Bible. That's a guide for
And
life.
there's consequences
And-
for not serving God. I mean, He is a loving, forgiving, graceful God. There's no doubt. But He's also a God of punishment.
And you got a choice. You got a choice you can make. Either live right, righteously, love one another, do what you can, and reap your rewards, or you're going the other way. Period.
Did you know? Did you know that
John Hagee will tell you.
Did you know that punishment did not exist until Adam and Eve and Lucifer done what they done?
Exactly.
Because up until then, everything was in harmony.
That's right.
Okay, and then whenever Lucifer done what he done, God had to do something, and he the only thing that he knew how to discipline the Homo sapiens was to bring punishment. Well, you're going to bear children the rest of your life, and then you're going to return back to the ground. You're going to work for the rest of your life. You're going to return back to the ground, and you're going to get around on your belly the rest of your life. And God had to develop punishment. Up until then, punishment did not exist.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I've had people tell me.
If you got a computer on your phone right there,
Yeah.
I want you to go to my website before I leave.
Okay.
Can you bring it up? I'm gonna give it to you. Can you bring it up?
Well, I'm recording right now, but yeah, I'll do it. But listen to me. It was God. It was Lucifer that forced God's hand into making God having to develop something pertaining to the disobedience. You hear what I'm saying? God is not a ruler like a bolt of lightning, like he's hammering everybody over the head with the Bible. No, my philosophy is this: God will not make you or me or anybody else serve him. But what he will do,
it's a choice.
What he will do, he'll make you regret that you did not serve him.
That's right.
Because ultimately you're going to be the one, or I'm going to be the one to pay the price for not being obedient and serving him.
My grandmother used to say this. I'd be out there on the porch, dejected and everything, and she'd come up and she'd say, we talk about God and Christian talks. And one time she told me, she said, God will whip sometimes the one that he loves.
He'll chastise you.
And I never
Those that he
understood
loves.
it, but he'll keep you in line right there. And then he'll give you up to reprobate mind after you realize that he's wasting your time when he can help us.
That's right. You turn it. In other words, it's
But I got a website devoted to all this.
It's a lost cause, really.
Let me get them shoes.
What do you do now? What do you do now? Because I noticed that shirt looks like UN. What is that? Are you with the UN?
I am with a
United Nations.
Well, it's not United Nations. It's a this is a insurance conglomerate right there. I do like statistic, actuary type work for them.
Okay, you're a troubleshooter.
Yeah. In other words, that's why
you do the numbers things. You're like an accountant.
Yeah, one other thing right there. I got to tell you, I love telling people this right here. I like going to these scientific meetings. Number one, I'm not a scientist. You don't have to be. That's one thing I like about this country. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be. Sometimes you don't have to be a doctor. The greatest doctor sometimes is one you don't need to go to. But I proved one time. You know what black holes are, right?
Yeah.
You know what they really are? They're the mechanisms that drive that drives God's clock right there. And I've got a pamphlet I've written. You know what the pamphlet's called? Black holes are the pores in God's skin, and I can prove it. I can prove the design that God has created. You talking about energy?
Yeah.
One little black hole the size of this right here will run this whole Earth right here. Not bigger than that shoe right there.
Probably. And is it true? Is it true that the Egyptians before us, they used to call it Greek mythology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now since we've got all this modern day satellite infantry and all this specialized stuff, of course, going into the ocean and stuff, did you know that they're now taking scientific and turning it into science fact? Because it's not mythology, because they can prove that there's freaking cities under the freaking ocean, sometimes a mile or 2 miles deep. You know what I'm saying? Just like all them cities over there in the rainforest, they can prove these things. These things are undeniable. They're undeniable, brother.
You need to come to my library one day. I'm not a bragging man. One of my favorite sayings is this right here.
Where you at?
I'm over there on Bishop Street down at the hospital. Here's one of my favorite sayings. And you're a person, you're truly a godly, you're like a conduit. You know what a conduit is? See the conduits?
Yeah.
To connect up all this fire and all this wire.
I appreciate the.
You're like a conduit of God.
I appreciate you saying that.
And this is not.
And I needed that encouragement. I really did.
Well, and
because here lately I've been attacked by the Wiccans.
You know why?
You know what? They live less than a quarter of a mile from my house.
You know why you're being attacked?
You know who the Wiccans are?
Yeah, I know who they are.
They're devil worshippers.
That's right.
It's an occultist.
That's right.
They're right over by me. You know where you was talking about that store?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
All right,
I used to go by there every 2 or 3 days right there.
Okay, I'm less than a quarter of a mile from there. whenever you're going towards Sidonia, after you go around the corner,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
heading toward
yeah.
you're heading towards Sidonia, you'll cross over the county line road right there.
Right.
Almost died right there, pertaining to an event happened in my life in 1983. Okay, if you go up a hill and down a hill, there's 2 or 3 little hills right there. There used to be a church right there on the right. It originally was Beach Grove Church. My people went to that church. Okay, I got baptized in a horse trough in the middle of a snowstorm, outside in the middle of nowhere, by 2 grown men that put me on the water and baptized me there.
You know who you
I
remind me
live on that road, that same road where that church is. If you go down to where the T is, you'll see all kinds of artifacts I got out there in my yard.
Well,
Crosses, army
you
stuff.
remind me of Jerry Clower. Jerry Clower was a godly man. All right, let me tell you something here. You talking about?
How are you doing?
Let me tell you about how there aren't any coincidences.
You got a doctor's degree, don't you?
Well, one of my sayings is.
You got a doctor's degree.
Well, I do, but look here. I'm a doctor. I know nothing right there.
How
And
come I knew that?
Huh?
How come I knew that?
Well, because probably there's so many different ways of learning and education. You know what osmosis is? Like that frog at your, who held that frog up? You know how that frog...
Zorbella.
Yeah, you know how that frog drinks water, a bullfrog?
Uh.
It seeps it in through its skin right there.
I didn't know that.
You can be, look here, you can be the smartest person in the world as far as all these degrees and everything.
Right.
And not have that osmosis, that love and that sensitivity.
Right.
See, if you're sensitive and loving, God does, you're going to be revealed and receive things from nature that these scientists and these other people don't have a clue about.
So they know
because they're hard.
Right.
You know what the greatest handicap in the world is? Is not knowing that you have one.
Oh, I know I got many.
But you know as well
I
as
got
I
lots
do,
of imperfections.
You know as well as I do.
I
that
got
people,
lots of imperfections.
You know as well as I do. A lot of people think they don't have any handicaps.
They don't see
We're
themselves.
all handicapped.
They don't want to see themselves.
We're all handicapped in the sight of God, in the
Sure.
sight of Jesus.
Sure we are.
We're nothing.
Absolutely.
We're nothing, but we have a choice to be something and to be beautiful and to be righteous and to make a difference in this earth. And while we're dancing down here, we have a choice right there. But I got a library of 2 coincidences. No more than there aren't any coincidences. You know, you talking about where you almost got killed down there?
Yeah.
Or in 1973, I got my driver's license.
Okay.
My first job, I was working out there around Sidonia.
Really?
And I was just, I had a hot rod, man. I thought I was just tearing up the road. Now,
What year was this?
1973.
Okay.
And I was going to church. I was an acolyte. I used to carry the cross and do all that through the
Okay.
Episcopal, Catholic,
Sure.
and all these churches.
Sure.
But I went to church, but I didn't believe in God. But let me tell you something. I can prove God in so many different ways. But
Have you
all
ever
right.
have you ever felt God?
Oh, you better believe it. Right
Oh,
there.
yes.
I feel Him right now.
Oh, yes.
Now, watch this right here now.
Just like you tell me whenever you feel the hair on your arm stand up, that's the Holy Spirit talking to us.
Right. There ain't no coincidence.
You're being sensitive to the Spirit.
Exactly. And I'm gonna be. See, when I leave Walmart tonight, I cannot walk out that door and be the same person.
That's
because
right.
I've been convicted right there. Number one, the truth,
Our talk,
what you've educated
knowledge,
me, history, and all that
wisdom,
stuff. Let me get back
understanding.
to Sidonia right here.
Okay.
All right. I went out there to get a spare part for a tractor, and I was in a hurry, and I just got my driver's license, and I thought I was Andy Granatelli. You know that big hill you go up before you get to Sidonia?
I'm just this side of that.
All right, watch this. Watch this.
That was the Frank Enos Hill.
All right. I came down that hill 110 miles an hour. Now watch this now.
My God.
110 miles an hour, and down at the foot of that hill, a car pulled out in front of me.
Oh, mate, coming out of that.
If it wasn't in August, the hottest time of the year, when it burns that tar and makes that tar real slick.
Yeah, it almost makes it like ice.
Exactly. When I hit the brakes, because I didn't know any better, when I was just 16 years old, that car spun around because of the tar. The tar let the car do a fishtail.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd have been killed. But God, I got another story I got to tell you. Because I start talking and I won't stop right there. But to see that car spun around, and I measured it 330 feet. And I got out and I was like that right there.
You done a complete total 360 degree
110
turn.
miles an hour right
You
there.
done a 360 degree turn.
That's right, because that tar was flicking. See, otherwise that car would have flipped 27 times. I didn't have a seatbelt on.
Right.
And I asked myself, why while that happened, God spared my life. Now watch this right here.
So you wound up down there on the bottom of that hill,
That's
right
right.
there by Beach Grove Church.
Exactly.
That's where the road is that I live on.
Or here's another one. Or do you remember the old car? A lot of people don't. They don't. Get that cigar. A lot of people. Don't remember the. And you know what? That right there fell because I don't need that right there. You remember the old cars that you had to dim the lights right there?
Oh yeah. Well, not only that, but I remember them where whenever you got ready to start them, you mashed the gas pedal all the way down, and that's what activated the starter. And then as soon as it cranked, you let up.
That's right.
And I also remember the push button. You put it in gear by the push button. Remember those kind on the dash? What was that?
I didn't have one. I remember it right there. But all right, I'm gonna tell you this. Then we got to get out of here. But anyway, you got to hear this because this goes against the statistics.
This is talking about a miracle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. All right. My wife and children had just come back from a funeral right there. We were in Mississippi. It was about probably 11:30 at night. Real still busy highway, and these 18-wheelers were zooming by. We were going down a 2-lane, and I get up on this hill in this old car, and I dim the lights.
Down in that same area?
Well, yeah, but watch this right here. I get up over this hill, and there's a detour of about 100 yards where they're working on building a bridge, and you have to get off.
Okay.
And get back on the 2-lane wherever all the traffic is. When I do that detour and get off on that little 100
That's whenever they was redoing that old Bine Bridge down there, right?
Kind of like that right there, but this was in Mississippi down there.
Okay.
Just at that funeral, I'm tired, and my wife, so we still got 200 miles to drive.
Okay.
And I stop and and get off that detour, and I hit my dimmer light, and the car quits. And my wife says, "Oh God, what's happening?" And the children start waking up, and I'm thinking. And at the time, see, I wasn't thinking about God or anything, and I get mad. And long story short, I got a guy who helped me hotwire it. I do a little mechanical work too, so I hotwired it on that little detour, little 100-yard stretch right there.
Right.
Get back on the 4-lane where all my big traffic and all the trucks are coming over. And I finally make it home about 4.5 hours later, and I pull in. I'm still mad and cussing. Why does all this stuff happen to me? And I get to thinking, how many times I've hit that dimmer switch with that car? Probably 100,000, maybe 50,000. Why did those lights go off on that little detour when there wasn't any danger right there of somebody getting killed, a wife and 2 children? Why that little 100-yard stretch out? And you know how many miles that car had on it? 600,000 miles. Why did that dimmer switch quit right there? I'm gonna tell you why. Because God let it happen. Because He knew
He was
protecting me. He had the shield of protection over me. And when I went in and got on my knees and fell down, I said, "Thank you, God." And I came to my senses, and I said, He let it happen like that. And it wasn't a coincidence. He spared our life, because we would have been smashed right there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
People
Let me tell you a story now. I was driving a 1979 Buick Regal V6 with a turbo on it, blue in color. Sucker would run like a freaking haint. Okay, this was 1983. I was give or take about 19 years old. Okay, and no, I was a little older now, about 22 years old. And I was fumbling around up underneath the seat trying to get something, not paying attention, and I wound up falling off the edge of the road, and I went down into that ravine, and my God, I freaking tore that vehicle all to pieces. And this was a nice vehicle. a nice vehicle. Well, guess what? I was running illegal because I didn't have driver's license, because I got lead-footed and I got too many tickets. Okay.
I've been there and done that.
So now I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I'm sure enough in trouble. But because I'd went through the extreme bad luck that I'd went through, I actually got out of the vehicle and cursed God. I said, "You've cursed me." I said, "You have brought a curse up into my life, and everything that I touch and do, it backfires on me." Okay? Well, I finally got over throwing a pity party. Walked about a half a mile to where my father and my brothers was. He was out there busy doing something. I don't know what it was. And I hollered for him that I'd wrecked my car, but I need to hurry up and get it before the law comes down there, before they realized that I had who it was and what that I was down there. And he gave me a cussing, and I can't let go right now, and this and that. So I went ahead and walked on around that house and walked on up to my neighbor's house, because I know he had a tractor. So I got a young boy, 806 International tractor, come down there, pulled the tractor out of the ravine, got it back up on the road. Just so happens we only had a short chain. Whenever I went down into the ravine, got mud all over the windshield. Well, whenever I hit the windshield wiper, it broke the reservoir, so it didn't have no water in it. So that just made the freaking windshield there wasn't no way that you could see out of the windshield. So anyways, I had a brainstorm. I thought, okay, all right, I'll put the car in neutral. I cranked it up because, it was, power steering. Cranked it up, but I knew it was tore up. He went ahead and pulled me while I had the window down. My feet was in the seat. My right arm was up here. My left arm was going back into the car, guiding the steering wheel. And here we go down that road, going back towards Sidonia, right there where the county meets, Obion and Weakley County. And
I go by it all the time.
And the car started rolling faster than the tractor, and I didn't catch it. And the right bumper to the car caught that right knobby tire on that 806 International tractor, and it literally walked up that tractor and almost got the guy that was on the tractor, pinned him almost to the steering wheel. And just about the time he realized what was going on, he turned around and he hit the clutch and hit the brake at the same time. Well, by this time, the automobile had gained enough momentum that it broke loose from the tractor, but it was still in that curvature motion, and now it's heading back down. I didn't have enough time to think about either getting into the car or getting out of the car, and the only thing I could do was say, oh, God, help me. The very same God that I just got through cursing 35 or 40 minutes before that.
He'll do it.
I cried out, and I felt two hands miraculously grab both of my wrists that was cold in nature. I mean, deathly cold. I felt the fingers go around both my wrists. The Spirit of God entered into my body. Just about the time I looked up and my back hit the asphalt, here comes this car right up here where the drip railing is up here, and it come right down on top of my torso. I've seen metal bending around my body that is scientifically impossible. It should have cut me in half. It should have cut me completely in half. Well, the boy getting off the tractor, he pushes the car up in him, because now the car's sitting up this way and I'm up underneath the car, right? It's just sitting there rocking, right? Okay. He pushes the car over. I drag myself out, and he goes to talk. He asked me, he said, are you hurt? I said, heck yeah, I'm hurt. Get the ambulance out here now. Well, by the time the ambulance got out there, I'd done already become unconscious, right? And they feel me and they look at me. Well, he ain't got no lacerations. He don't feel like he got no broken bones. We're going to go ahead and take him in just in case. We're going to check him out. Well, they took off there at that area, went to Sidonia, and then from Sidonia going back towards 3 Point. And by the time they got to 3 Point, guess what my blood pressure done? Boom. Zero. Bottomed out. And that's whenever they realized, oh my God, this guy's fixing to freaking die. By the time they got me into the emergency room, which took them about another 3 or 4 minutes, my blood pressure had completely bottomed out. All my veins had sucked up like a water hose. They had to cut a laceration down up on top of my ankle, going into that main vein. Started pumping blood back up into me. And about 35, 40 minutes later, I'm laying on a gurney looking up at a doctor from India, and he's telling me, you got problem in here, you almost died, you got anything you want to say, you better say it now. Towards getting things in order, because you may not make it. Well, I woke up about 5 hours later where he'd cut me from stem to stern, opened me up. He had to go in and remove all my intestines because it had busted a spleen. All that pressure that hit, it busted a spleen, and I was bleeding internally, and you couldn't detect it. There was no way of detecting it. Well, while he was in there, he went ahead and took, I think, my appendix out, because I'd already had my kidney out. Took my appendix out, and my tonsils moved, been electrocuted almost dead, fall off 4-story building. Raised up a World War II drill sergeant, very abusive. So they stapled me back up. Okay, I stayed in there for about a week. It's 1983, about April, somewhere around in there. Go home, because I didn't have nowhere else to go other than to go to my parents' house. And about 2 weeks later, I got word that the doctor who saved my life took his life. Took his life. Right there in Martin, Dr. Summercheck. I don't know if you remember him or not.
I probably remember him.
He was from India, okay? But 2 weeks after that, the problems at home was so severe that it literally drove my mother off into almost a nervous breakdown, to the point that I said something to my dad because he did not want me to advertise that a miracle had taken place. You remember that show that come out there on California, something like Ripley's Believe It or Not, but it was something else where they would show miracles and stuff, and they would advertise there at the last. Well, if you got anything that's happened to you, send us your report in, and we'll evaluate it and see if we'll get back with you later. Well, I called them people.
Ripley, yeah.
Well, then people called me back. About a week later, they called me back. In the meantime, Dad picks up the phone and realizes that I'm reaching out towards wanting to tell people about this miracle that had taken place in my life. He got so angry, he jerked the phone off the wall, and he got to cussing and ranting and raving. And about that time, I realized that he had jumped up like a witch, and almost like he was floating in the air. I know at least 25 feet. And he jumped right up on top of me. Of course, whenever I seen that he was coming at me, I immediately got down on my knees and took my hands. Of course, I didn't weigh but 150 pounds back then. And if it wasn't for his brother, because he got up on top of me and he was beating the back of my head and beating the back of my neck, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. And about that time, his brother hollered at him, Bobby, don't kill him, don't kill him. So he jumped up and drug him off of me real quick.
Yeah.
I'm serious. And I still got 64 staples up and down my belly, right?
Yeah. I've had stories like that happen.
I walked all the way to Kenton, Tennessee the next day because I realized that my life is in danger. I go to my grandmother's White House, house. Kenton.
You ever know Bicycle Pete?
Yeah, doing real well.
I got a story about him right there.
But anyway,
that's an excellent.
But I called the White House and I told them that a miracle had taken place in my life, and that I was going to be the one to meet the Antichrist, and before the poison arrow struck the flesh of my skin, that I was going to vanish or disappear. That's what was going to be whenever the second coming or the resurrection from the saints was going to take place. Right? Yeah. I go down to the city hall. Don Curry's down there, young cop. Tell him that I made a call to the White House, but that my life had been in danger and I needed help. He thought I was drinking. He made me do a breath test. Well, it showed up 0-0. He said, Jimmy, I don't really know what to do with you. He said, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock you up. I'm going to put you in here in the jail. He said, I'm going to contact the mayor, Damian Cross, and I'm going to contact various people, and I'm going to try to get a hold of your dad and mom, because I know both of them. And we're going to bring them down here and see what they're going to wind up doing. Well, guess what happened that night? They basically patted my father on the back and told him what kind of good job that he'd done.
You got to be kidding me.
I'm not. And they told me that they thought that I was psychologically, emotionally, chemically imbalanced, and they recommended for me to go to Bolivar, and that if I didn't go voluntarily, that they was going to force me to go forcefully. Okay? And the person the whole time that should have been in a psychiatric ward the whole time should have been my father. Besides that, they should have placed charges on his life that night towards attempted murder, because you don't attack somebody with 64 staples up and down their belly after they just got through having nine units of blood transfusion.
I was in the Marine Corps, raised by a Marine Corps DI. Go get on this website, because I'm going to have to get these boots and get out of here.
All right.
Jimmy, right?
No, Juby, but my real